Good morning, students. Today we will continue with the chapter Prime Minister and the Council of Minister. The first part of the chapter we have already covered, that is the power position and the powers of the Prime Minister. Now we will discuss the powers of the cabinet, the functions of the cabinet. I had already told you what is the meaning of the cabinet and the distinction between the cabinet and the other council of minister. And this time today we will discuss the powers and functions of the cabinet. Now the first point is formulating the policy of the government. This is the first and the important function of the cabinet. Cabinet is a group of the minister, those who are the senior ministers, and they are responsible for formulating the major policy and the program of the government. We have discussed in the last class that the cabinet is a group of the senior minister who enjoys important and independent portfolio. Out of the other council of minister, the cabinet is the most important category of the council of minister. So formulating the policy of the government. Mainly the cabinet is responsible for formalizing the important policies of the government. The cabinet formulates the external and domestic policies of the government. Here we have seen in our country also the major policies and the program of the government, external policies, that is the policy with the other nations, the domestic policies related to the railway, finance, budget, all the things are decided by the cabinet minister. I have told you the important cabinet ministers of our country in the present government is Rajnath Singh, Amit Shah, Sushma, Smriti Irani, Nirmala Sitaraman. See, all these are the cabinet ministers. They decide the domestic and the external policies of the government. Second, before taking any decision, the cabinet ministers must discuss the matter in the cabinet meeting. We have discussed in the last class that in the cabinet meeting, the cabinet minister, they must join the cabinet meeting. They must be present in the cabinet meeting, and they decide all the important decision, all the important on all the important matters. The important decisions are taken only in the cabinet meeting. Therefore, it is written here, before taking any of the decision by any of the cabinet minister, they must discuss the matter first in the cabinet meeting. Next is the administrative function. Here we have you will find in your book formulating the policy of the government. In my notes I have written the two important points, and rest the administrative function here also you will find in this paragraph. Like the administrative function, the cabinet is essentially a policy framing body. All the important policies are determined by the cabinet minister only. That is why it is written here, the cabinet is essentially a policy framing body. When it has determined on a policy, the appropriate ministry has to carry it out. Means if any of the decision is taken by the cabinet minister, the appropriate ministry means the particular ministry for which the decision has been taken, that ministry must carries out all those functions. Suppose if the decision is taken related to the railway department, so all the members of the railway ministry, they must carry it out whatever decision has been taken in the cabinet. Each ministry or the department must faithfully follow the directions of the cabinet. All the department must follow whatever the decision is taken by their concerned cabinet minister, and the president makes all the major appointments with aid and advice of the council of minister. We have discussed this point in the executive power of the president also, ki president appoints attorney general, governors, and the chief election commissioner, but on the aid and advice of the cabinet ministers. So this is the administrative function of the cabinet. Now the coordination in the functioning of the various ministries. No cabinet minister can function independently without having a good coordination with the other department. The cabinet acts as a coordinator between the various departments. Suppose the government has taken the decision related to Manrega, means providing 100 days of employment to the rural people, but this could not carries it out until all the departments of the various department, they must have a coordination between them. Now come to the financial function. As we all know, the finance minister produces the budget every financial year. The cabinet is responsible for whole of the expenditure of the government, for raising necessary revenues to meet it. All the expenditure of the government and the necessary collection of the revenues, it is all decided by the cabinet minister only, that is the finance minister. Money bill cannot be introduced in the Lok Sabha. It can only be introduced by the concerned minister only. Money bill can be introduced in the Lok Sabha only by the finance minister. The full proposals are neither circulated among the cabinet members nor debated by them. The cabinet can examine the budget proposal after they have been presented to the parliament and may also suggest suitable modification. It means that, as I have told here, ki all the important decision the cabinet minister must discuss in the cabinet meeting. But as far as the budget proposal is concerned, here the cabinet minister is not bound to discuss the proposal in the cabinet meeting. The cabinet minister can examine the budget proposal once they have been presented by the cabinet minister inside the parliament, and then they can give necessary suggestions. You will find the coordination in the functioning of the various ministers here in the book also. Here financial functions you will find in detail. Then comes the legislative function. President, here the legislative function is same as the legislative function of the president. But only difference is that the only difference is that in the powers and functions of the president, you must add one line that on the advice of the cabinet. President summon and prorogue the session of the parliament on the advice of the cabinet. Cabinet prepares the president's special address to the parliament. Initiation in the legislation has almost completely means the president summon and prorogue the session of the parliament on the advice of the cabinet. Cabinet prepares the president's special address to the parliament. President addresses the both the houses of the parliament at the commencement of first session after each general election, that we have studied in the chapter president. When you will write the legislative function of the cabinet, you should start like cabinet prepares the president's special address to the parliament. Initiative in the legislation has almost completely gone to the cabinet. More than 95% bills are the government bill prepared by the ministers. All the important bills are introduced by the concerned cabinet minister only. 95% bills are the government bills, means these are the bill introduced by the concerned ministries. Ordinances, again this we have studied in the legislative power of the president, that ordinances are promulgated by the president. Here you will add when you will write the legislative function of the cabinet, you will add one more line like ordinances are promulgated by the president but on the advice of the ministers. The cabinet is instrumental in planning and moving an amendment to the constitution. Means if the bill related to the amendment of the constitution is introduced, it is introduced only by the cabinet minister. Now the diplomatic links with the other nation, we have seen in the foreign policy also, it is determined by the cabinet minister only. So cabinet only decides the foreign policy of the nation. It plays an important role in choosing our ambassadors. Now the proclamation of the emergency. President, this also we have studied in the chapter president, that president can proclaim emergency, but he must get the recommendation for the same from the union cabinet minister in writing. Before president can't proclaim the emergency until he get the recommendation from the cabinet in writing. Now the next, which is there in your book, the next topic, the salient features of the cabinet system or the parliamentary form of the government. Here some of the specific points are written in your book. You will have to learn that. Like the cabinet system of the government, you have studied in the 9th class also, that the president is the constitutional head of the state, leadership of the prime minister. There must be a harmonious cooperation between the executive and legislative branch of the government, and the collective responsibility. So all these you have already studied in the 9th class. The same way it is written, like the president is the nominal head of the state, he is the head of the country, but actually the prime minister is the one who leads the nation, who decides the major policy and program of the government along with the cabinet minister. Members of the executive, that is the ministers, are the members of the legislature and take part in the deliberation. They answer the questions and defend their policies from the attack of the opposition. Means harmonious cooperation between executive and legislature, means executive means the cabinet ministers, the council of ministers. They have to give the answer related to their policies and the program inside the legislature. Opposition, they ask questions inside the legislature from the concerned ministers. The chief merit of the parliamentary form of the government is the harmony between the executive and the legislature. Now, the collective responsibility. All the council of ministers are collectively answerable to Lok Sabha. Now, I have written the definition, a small definition of collective and the individual responsibility. These two also may come in your examination in short answer type of question. Mainly, it has come till now only in the short answer type question. And then the methods of the parliament ensures the ministerial responsibility. This is nothing but the executive power of the parliament. Means how the parliament exercises control over the executive. First, we will discuss about the collective responsibility. All the council, I have written these points from your book only. So you also mark whatever I have written here in the notes. All the council of ministers are collectively responsible to the Lok Sabha. Members of the cabinet, they swim and sink together. When a decision has been taken by the cabinet, every minister has to stand by it without any hesitation. Whatever decision is taken in the cabinet meeting, all the cabinet minister must abide with the decision. They have to stand on the decision taken by the cabinet without any hesitation. If one cabinet minister has taken the decision, all the cabinet minister must stand by it. Now, the individual responsibility. As we have seen, all the council of ministers are collectively responsible to the Lok Sabha, and all the council of ministers are individually responsible to the head of the state, that is president. The minister holds office during the pleasure of the president. Ministers shall be liable to be dismissed by the president for their undesirable activities. Means if any of the minister has taken some wrong decision or did something wrong, then the president can ask from him the resignation and then he has to resign. So these two terms, you may get short answer type question from these two topics in your board examination. So learn this definition. And lastly, what I was telling you, that method by which the parliament ensures the ministerial responsibility, means how the parliament has control over the ministers. That is the executive power of the parliament. So all those points will come that you have already studied in the chapter 1, that is censure motion, no confidence motion, question hour, 0 hour, adjournment motion. So all these points will come. These are the ways through which the parliament exercises control over the executive. Now, few questions I had already given to you in my previous class, and hope that you did all those questions. Now, few more questions you must mark in your book itself. You also do these questions in your copy. Then we will be able to finish this chapter. Like, under what provision can a non-MP be appointed as a minister? In my book, this is question number 12. This is question number 12 in my book. Under what provision can a non-MP be appointed as minister? The answer of this question is a non-MP can be appointed as a minister, but he has to get himself elected or nominated within a period of 6 months to either house of the parliament. You will find this answer in your book also. Again and again I am emphasizing, whatever I am teaching you, you read each and every word from your book, because it is not possible to read each and every line of the book right now here, but you must read, and in case of any doubt you can consult me at any time. So this question is again very important, that under what provision a non-MP, matlab if any of a person is not elected as a MP to either house of the parliament, to Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, can he be appointed as a monitor? So answer is yes, but he has to get himself elected or nominated to either house of the parliament within a period of 6 months. This is important question, very frequently asked in your board exam. In my book it is question number 12. Maybe in your book this may be the question number 10 or 11 or 12 or 13 also, because my book is the old book. Next is question number 17 in my book. You just read the question, how long can a ministry stay in the office? The answer is till the pleasure of the president. Next is question number 19. Last question in my book. Mention any 2 ways is written here. You write 4 ways. Mention any 4 ways in which the parliament exercises an effective control over the executive. Answer just now we have discussed. Censure motion, no confidence motion, question hour, 0 hour, all these points will come here. Now in the detailed answer type question. The first question is, what is meant by the term cabinet? Mention 4 points of distinction between the Council of Minister and the Cabinet. This also we have discussed in our previous class. I have given the notes also. Next is means what is meant by the cabinet and 4 points of distinction between council of minister and the cabinet. Then the cabinet acts in the name of the council of minister and exercises all powers on his behalf. Discuss its power and function with reference to the following: formulation of policies of the government, administrative function, proclamation of emergency. Just now we have discussed, so this you will have to do. Now the cabinet, question number 8, the cabinet exercises vast authority in legislation and finance. In this context, describe the legislative function of the cabinet, its control over the national finance. So these 2 points also you must write. And question number 9, with reference to the ministerial responsibility, explain the meaning of the following statement or the provision of the Constitution of India. The Council of Ministers shall be collectively responsible to the Lok Sabha. The ministers shall hold office during the pleasure of the president. That is the collective and the individual responsibility. So in the structured question, question number 6, 7, 8, 9, these 4 questions you will have to do, and short answer type question I have already told you. But again and again I am telling you, read each and every line from the book. Okay. Thank you.